David, when is it enough? Now the Dodgers want Tucker. Won't this impact the new CBA? Thank you for asking the question. I prefer hellos. How are you? How's your day? What's shaking? Say hi to Brett. There's all sorts of things I wouldn't mind to see in questions. Why did you ask this yesterday? It's because word came out that Kyle Tucker, who you recall was traded from the Astros to the Chicago Cubs. You may recall that Kyle Tucker has been an important part of the offensive resurgence of the aforementioned Chicago Cubs. You may recall that Kyle Tucker is the best free agent on the board next season, at the end of this season. You may recall that there is a big push for the Cubs to re-sign Kyle Tucker. What you may not recall is that when you are Kyle Tucker and his representative, you do not want one team bidding on Kyle Tucker. You want every team bidding on Kyle Tucker. But if you only choose two teams, you got to make sure one of them is the Dodgers. It is no surprise that the Dodgers are rumored to be in on Kyle Tucker. The Dodgers obviously have Shohei Ohtani's deferred contract to play with, where they're paying him $2 million now and $68 million later. The Dodgers have spent some of that money when they signed Yamamoto. The Dodgers would be helped by having Kyle Tucker. It would make their team that much better because they can use some of that to sign Blake Snell. They can use some of that to sign Tanner Scott. They can use some of that to sign Tyler Glasnow. But bringing in Kyle Tucker would be another example of the financial might that the Dodgers have and employ. But your question is, will it impact the new CBA? And what I assume you're referring to is whether or not it will embolden enough owners to demand a salary cap because the Dodgers seem to be getting all the free agents. I want to bring you inside an owners meeting where conversations like this happen. And the reason why most owners don't complain privately about what the Dodgers are doing is that their baseball people say to them, the Dodgers only have 26 roster spots. There are plenty of players out there available for us if you give me the payroll flexibility and the capability to sign free agents. As you know, you don't need to be a good GM to overpay to sign Shohei Ohtani or Kyle Tucker or Blake Snell. You need to be a good front office president of baseball operations to sign mid-level free agents or lower-level guys to minor league contracts with an invite to Major League spring training. You need to be good on the margins because that's what differentiates you from being a bad front office to a good front office. As a president of a low-revenue team, I was cognizant of the NL East and the payroll of the Phillies and the payroll of the Braves and the payroll of the Mets. And that's even before Steve Cohen got involved. But the reality is, I never went to our owner and said, why can't we be at 200? If we could only be at 200, I swear to God, we'd be better. I swear to God, we'd win more than 81 games. We'd win a second World Series. I never once said that. Because you've got to have the ability to build your team and allocate your resources across all 26 players in a way that a team gets put together to win. Kyle Tucker is obviously someone who makes your team better, but it depends on the price, whether or not that player is marked to market. Generally, top-of-the-line free agents can never be marked to market, where you give what the value is of the player and then decide whether or not that value is more or less than what your contractual obligation is to that player. There is no player who is worth $40 million, $50 million. They don't generate enough revenue, and we can talk about Ohtani separately if you like, but they don't lead to winning. Look at what happened with the Angels when they had Ohtani and Mike Trout. The reality is the Dodgers can allocate their payroll at whatever level they want. and you know that Max Muncy and Chris Taylor are not going to be on the Dodgers next year. They're going to come off the books. Michael Conforto making $17 million this year. They're not going to sign him to a long-term deal. He'll come off the books. When you are Andrew Friedman and you have an opportunity to sign a Kyle Tucker, and he's not a huge percentage of your total payroll, you're going to think about it. But if you're Kyle Tucker, you are spending your days and nights getting the Dodgers interested because it's the way to get Tom Ricketts of the Cubs to pony up even more. We'll find out what happens with Kyle Tucker, but in no way does an owner go to the commissioner and say, I'm now a no on anything but a salary cap for a new CBA, or I'm a no on a CBA unless it's got certain luxury tax levels that are lower than what they are now, or that the penalties are greater. And I'm doing all of that because of Kyle Tucker. The reason why you take a position as a team in a collective bargaining agreement negotiation, and when you're negotiating with the commissioner, the reason why you do that is because it's to the benefit of your team and how you operate your team in your market with the sort of payroll scale that you have for your team. It has nothing to do, and you're reading so much about this, but it has nothing to do with a specific player signing with a specific team. We're going to find out, though, but I'm going to be right.